Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit. We're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another of the lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the daily office lectionary. And I thought today, Saturday, we would take a look at one of the lessons that's assigned for morning prayer, and that is from the Gospel according to St. Luke. We are up to chapter number 17 already, and we had a bunch of teachings of Jesus falling immediately in a row, and some healing stories, and we have one more great healing story in this particular sequence. So chapter 17, beginning at verse 11. And it came to pass as he went to Jerusalem that he passed through the midst of Samaria and Galilee. And as he entered into a certain village, there met him 10 men that were lepers, which stood afar off. And they lifted up their voices and said, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. And when he saw them, he said unto them, Go, show yourselves to the priests. And it came to pass that as they went, they were cleansed. And one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back and with a loud voice glorified God. And he fell down at his face at his feet, and giving him thanks, he was a Samaritan. And Jesus answered and said, Were not 10 cleansed? Where are the 9? There were not found that returned to give glory to God, save this stranger. And he said to him, Arise, go thy way. Thy faith hath made thee whole. Now, interesting thing that I always, whenever I hear this particular lesson, that always sticks out at me. And that is that, first of all, the other 9 are in fact doing exactly what Jesus told them. When it comes to obedience, the other 9 are doing the obedient thing. Jesus says, Go and show yourselves to the priest, and they have gone and they are going to show themselves to the priest. Now, why? Well, the priests, the ones who are leading worship in Israel, are the ones who declare whether or not you are clean or unclean. If you are declared unclean, particularly of a skin disease, which they've lumped a whole bunch of different skin diseases into what they would call leprosy. But now leprosy is a particular type of disease. But if you were designated a leper by the priests, you were excluded from society, from the community, because of the infection rate, right? And the fear that you would share that with others. So you became an outcast, and the outcasts would be together. As I said, they stood afar off and they called to Jesus to have mercy on them. And so the sickness is not only terrible in that they're sick, but there's also the fact that they are now excluded from community, excluded from family. They are outcasts. And so only the priests, if you get told that you have to be out, that you're unclean, if in fact it's not leprosy and it heals after a period of time, you go and you show yourself to the priest and he can readmit you to society. This is good news. So those other 9 are doing the good work in the fact that they're doing what they are told. Jesus says, Go and show yourself to the priest. But it's a Samaritan who has gratitude. And enough gratitude that he comes back to worship. He will go and show himself to the priest. I promise you, whoever the Samaritan community leader is that can readmit him to society, he will go and do that because he wants to be readmitted. He will obey Jesus. But this is the one who comes back and shows gratitude for his healing right away. First things first, and he comes and he worships. And of course, Jesus points out the wonderful irony of the story. The wonderful irony is that this one's the Samaritan, right? Remember, the Samaritans are the bad guys. They're the heretics. The Samaritans are the ones who have a false conception of God. They have a false religion. The Samaritans have tried to meld together the revealed religion of the original covenant between God and the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Samaritans have merged that together with pagan influences. So they are, in fact, worshiping a false god. And yet it's the Samaritan who does the right thing. It's the Samaritan who knows to come back and to glorify Jesus Christ and to worship him. And for that, Jesus gives him something even more wonderful than physical healing. He says, Your faith has made you whole, right? You're complete. Your faith has not only brought you physical healing, but it is now, because you've acknowledged Jesus Christ as Lord, has now brought you to a point of salvation. That's the real wholeness in the glory of God. Salvation. It's a wonderful story. It always gets my heart glad. Today's Saturday, which means, of course, tomorrow, Sunday, we gather for worship. We glorify Jesus Christ, like that leper. We glorify him in our worship. And tomorrow's a special fun day because it is our Founders Day. Every summer, we have a special Sunday set aside where we celebrate the founding of St. John's Church. Our first worship in our chapel was 162 years ago in November, but our first worship in the church was in the summer 160 years ago. And we will celebrate that two ways. First of all, we will use the 1789 Book of Common Prayer. We have a booklet printed out, so you don't have to go scrambling for a copy of that. We have a booklet printed out with the service, so we will have that here. And that's fun because the ordering is so close to what we use now, and yet there's just these little tweaks and differences. Interesting. And also, after the 10 o'clock service, we have an ice cream social, so that's always a fun time. So I hope that you can join us. Join us for worship here at St. John's, 7:30 morning prayer, 8 o'clock Holy Communion, 10 o'clock Holy Communion, and 5 o'clock evening prayer. And God willing, we'll see you in church. And until then, have a Saturday full of blessings.